Hello and welcome to the Salah Poetry Podcast. My name is Rory Hatchell and this is episode 57. I had a thing happen to me the other day. A very nice thing. It happened kind of in two different realms. I had two people separately, independent of each other, about two separate works highly praise what I had done. One was a person who was talking to my wife and was talking about a script I had written, and one is a friend of mine who was reading a short story I had just written, and they were both kind of gushing about it, which is great. Love praise, love feedback. As much as we can talk about audience of one and writing for no one or writing for the divine or whatever, it's hard to ignore that just feels good when it happens. When somebody notices you and praises you and, says, listen, you're special and that deserves to be called out. That just feels good. And so that was great. And I found myself in my head not necessarily dismissing them, not saying, yeah, it's terrible. I think some artists, writers, performers really struggle with that. That someone compliments them and they are immediately dismissive. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's really garbage. You should just shut up. And that's a whole different conversation. That's probably more about perfectionism, which a lot of artists struggle with, than it is about creativity. That's about worshiping at the altar of flawlessness and berating yourself for not being perfect. And that's a whole different conversation. But I see it all the time. You'll see artists will say, like, here's this new piece I've been working on, and it's a rough draft, or I still have to work on my line work, or the shading's not right. I still don't know how to draw backgrounds. Once they show me this amazing picture. And that must be probably because in the past they've shown it to somebody and then somebody has torn it down. So they tear down preemptively. It's self-defensive. Just if you insult your own work enough, then nobody can insult it. If you hate your own writing or your own drawings, then nobody can hurt you, right? If you hate your own music, you're immune to criticism, which is not actually how to be immune to criticism. You are still susceptible to criticism. You're just doing it for everyone else. And then you're now immune to praise. That's a vicious cycle. But anyways, that's a whole different podcast. We'll talk about being immune to praise and immune to criticism another day. But what I found myself doing is I let my ego swell from this feedback, saying, oh yeah, it is pretty good. I worked really hard on this. I'm really proud of it. This was hours and hours of work, and this is the culmination of thousands and thousands of words. This is a short story. It's like the fourth in a sequence. And so it's all been building up to this, and I feel really good about it. And you're clearly emotionally responding, so it's all working, and I'm proud of myself. However, the thought that did creep into me was, what does this do for me? What does it matter that people like it? Friends, family, strangers. Who cares if they think I'm good? And this is an equally toxic thought to the thought of it's not good, right? Is to say it doesn't matter that it is good. To say it doesn't matter that people think I'm good at this because I'm not published. I can go around handing out free copies of my work, and people can be like, wow, that's pretty good. But then they'll still be like, yeah, but it's like, okay, but will you pay me enough money that I could do this full time? Will you get it on the New York Times bestseller list? Will you put it in front of an agent or a publisher? What does this do for me? Your praise doesn't translate to anything. And so it's like, okay, can you like, could you share them on Facebook? Could you like, comment, subscribe? Can you give me a review? Because again, it's not good enough that somebody appreciates our work. It very quickly, when we're trapped and seduced by the monetization of art, it very quickly becomes like, what does your praise do for me strategically? I'm not talking about emotionally. Your praise helped me emotionally, but now I'm bummed out because your praise doesn't help me practically. It's not going to alter the circumstances of my life. And so then you have to ask yourself, what do you expect it to do? Why do you show it to people? Like when you walk around and you hand it to them and you're like, I hope you like it. And then they like it and you're like, that's not good enough. I used to have 1,000 reasons as to why it wasn't good enough. They don't know enough about art. They like anything. These are the same people who like movies I look down upon, or these are the same people who think this popular book series is brilliant. These people don't have the same idols that I have. They don't have the same role models that I have. We don't have the same definitions of what is or isn't good art. And that's a problem, right? So I was working through that, and it dawned on me that I need to get back to the Father's fridge. That was the phrase that came to me in this moment as I was trying to process it. A little story about myself. I started writing poetry when I was 14. I was in high school. I was a teenager, right? So all teenagers are little volcanoes of emotions: depression, anger, lust, attraction, passion, pain, melancholy, despair. You're all over the spectrum when you're a teenager. And I remember very distinctly one night when I was 14, I had all these emotions and I didn't know what to do with them. And I opened up a journal and I started writing poems. And I remember like 4 or 5 of those poems, what they were about, what the titles were. They were really, really bad. But it was such a transcendent experience to get what was inside me onto a page when I didn't have any way to get it out. I'm a big letter writer. It's something that's really important to me to show people that I love them, is to tell them. And I have a skill set for writing letters. I pride myself on this. And one of the things that has occurred to me is that I often don't know how I feel about something until I'm writing it down. I don't know how much a person means to me until I'm writing down how much they mean to me. I'm an English person by default, and I used to really loathe that I would do things at the last minute. I would loathe that I didn't outline things. I would loathe that I didn't have more pre-plan. But it's like I just didn't know what I felt until I was at the page, staring at the blank page, and I was in the middle of a paragraph, and then it just started clicking. It's like once I engaged my subconscious, my conscious and subconscious could have this conversation, and they figured out who Rory Hatchell truly was. That was really beautiful. It's why I love writing, is this dance of like this truer self of me, which isn't so self-conscious, isn't so nervous or shy, isn't so people-pleasing, comes out on the page. And I often write things which are far more beautiful than I could say or even think, because of this beautiful dance between my conscious and subconscious, between my craft and my spirit. So poems did that for me, and I was like, all right, now I didn't understand myself better now. The poem understood me better than I understood myself. So I would go out, I would print out these poems, stacks of them, but front and back, and I would just stand in the hall of my high school, handing people my poems. This was kind of the verge of social media. So this was 2003-ish. So MySpace was a thing, but I didn't really have a MySpace. I didn't really have a lot of friends on MySpace. That's the downside of MySpace and Facebook. You have to have friends and followers. But I knew a bunch of people in my high school walked past me every day. And I could just hand them a poem. They may crumple it up, but at least they had the poem in their hand for a moment. And this was an intoxicating thing. I could get myself out to people in a way that words and conversation and social interactions never worked. I floundered all through high school trying to talk to people online. That was never quite right. Trying to go to social gatherings. I went to some high school dances that were the most miserable experiences of my life. I tried to connect with people, and it seemed to be that the purest, truest way I could do that was to go to creative works and then to hand those to people. It wasn't about what their praise could do to me. It was about me being known. It was like, this is inside of me here. And there is this moment where you're like, I hope you like it. I hope you feel something. I hope you better understand who I am and what I'm about. But that's it. I wasn't handing out poems to my classmates hoping I'd become famous and hoping they'd share it on Twitter or whatever. I wasn't saying like, yeah, if you want more, come check out my blog. That wasn't what I was about. I was about this connection. And so when I think about coming back to the Father's fridge, I think about how there is this purity in what my children do with art that I think the best artists are doing. And you can argue that the best artists have the freedom and the fame to do this. They have the loyal following to do this. And I think that's probably true. There is probably something to that. I'm not going to pretend that money and popularity plays no part in it. Because my son has a loyal audience, me, right, and my wife. And so he will paint something super abstract and weird, and he'll hand it to us, and we'll ask him what it is, and he will say, it's a butterfly. And we'll be like, this looks like no butterfly I've ever seen, but it's a beautiful butterfly. And we will put it up on the fridge. We've actually gotten some frames that they're like really cheap, like you just kind of open them and you slide in a piece of art and then you take it out. It's not supposed to be like a permanent frame. It's like, this is the art of the week, kind of shadow boxy. And we put different art in there. We hang their art up in their room and we say, this is worthy of showcasing. And my kids love it. They love seeing their art hung up. They love when we point out their art to other people. They love when we appreciate it because it's part of them. It's their connection and expression, and they revel in our attention. They revel in the connection they have with us as like the medium, because we're used to connections through mediums like conversation, mediums like shared experiences, mediums like touch. But this art offers a connection where the medium is a painting, a poem, something that's created is now the bridge between us. We can now see each other through a new lens, and the lens is this painting of a butterfly. And when I was 14, I wrote those poems down in my journal. I wasn't expecting anyone to read them. I wasn't writing for fame or anything, or anyone. I didn't think I'd ever show them. A lot of them were embarrassing. I was just writing to get it out of me. And then when I shared them, I was just sharing them to get it out of me, right? To like be like, this is me. It's bubbling out here. Like, you want to know me? You guys have been trying to know me through conversation. It doesn't work. Try this. This is a new way to know me. It's my art. Which is part of why when I try and like share my art with people and they don't, I'm sure there's a miscommunication where they think perhaps I want them to critique my art or have some art, fancy opinion. When I show them my art, what I really want is for them to be a part of my art, right? I want them to read it and be like, oh, I see you now, Rory Hatchell. And so whenever somebody doesn't read my art, that's how it kind of wounds me. And it's unfair that it's so high stakes, I think. But it's like, I'm trying to be seen by you. Try this. This is how I see the world. This is how I feel about the world. This is how I think. These are my values. You can see it in my art. So I'm trying to return to the Father's fridge. And if you have a pronoun problem with father, if your father didn't grab your art, because it's true, Becca, my wife, grabs our art more than I do, grabs the kids' art and puts it up on the fridge. You can call it the mother's fridge. That's fine. Mothers are often the ones showcasing the art, but the divine's fridge seems a little impersonal, because this is a very personal thing. This idea of you shouting back to the infinite numinous beauty that holds the world together, here I am, I'm part of your song, and the universe kind of pauses and lifts you up as if you're a soloist and says, behold, this is my child's song. And we all want that so bad. And sometimes we think various platforms are going to do that for us. Publishing will be the universe holding Rory Hatchell up and saying, here is my child's song. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be any more true. I think it's going to be more praise and more, what does this do for me? This will be, how can I get more followers? I mean, they have found that people who have, 1 million Instagram followers just sit there and think about, how can I get 2 million? If I post this, I'll get this many more likes. I should show this sneak peek of this project I'm working on, and that'll create a lot of buzz. I should promote this new thing I'm working on. I should tease this little bit. And people with 2 million just think about, how am I going to get 10 million? And they just, the hunt keeps going, because they keep thinking the next platform will be the part where the universe stops talking and everyone holds their breath and looks at you. But the only time the universe holds its breath and looks at you is when you are talking directly to the divine. If you want God's attention, if you want her to smile at what you're doing with your life, you have to look at her. If your head is down, staring at the work in front of you, if it's lateral, looking at the people looking at you, if it's caught in the past and caught in the future about what you have done and wish you hadn't, your regrets, or what you should do to get your final dreams to come true, you're not going to see her smile at you. You're not going to see your artwork on the fridge. Look up. And that's part of why I'm such a champion of Song of Myself, is because he, in Walt Whitman, is begging us, look up. Do you not see you're part of this symphony? And you'll never know when it's time for your solo if you don't realize you're part of a symphony. You think you're this one-man show, you in the great void of nihilism and meaninglessness. You're not. You have to be willing to say, the crowd's applause doesn't matter as much, because I keep asking myself, what does it mean? I keep questioning it. I have such a difficult relationship with people's applause. I really, the hymn where I say, riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. A lot of man's praise is empty for me. And to realize that I just want to be on the mother's fridge, on the father's fridge. I just want her approval. And it's so easy to get. All I have to do is look at her. All I have to do to make my work sacred is, before I write, say, Lord, let me serve the work. Move through me and in me. Lord, write with me. And then all I have to do when I'm done is say, wasn't that great, Lord? Did you like that? And she and I can smile and hold each other's gazes for a moment. And yeah, that was so good. That was so good. And the universe will hold me up for solo. So that's my little bit of thinking today. That there is a complicated relationship between people's praise and our esteem of our own work, but you got to go back to when you were a child. You got to go back to when you had an audience of one. You had to go back to when you were just bursting with yourself and trying to get that out. As literally Walt Whitman said, last week we read, And these tend inward to me, and I tend outward to them. And such as it is to be of these, more or less, I am. I'm overflowing with this connection, with this self. And of these one and all, I weave the song of myself. And then I share it. I hope you like it. You don't owe me anything. I don't owe you anything. Here's a poem. It's a new way to see me. I want to be seen by you. I want to be known by you. I want to be connected to you. But that connection is meaningless unless I'm connected to something deeper and higher. Unless I'm on the Father's bridge. So take that with you as you go and write and wrestle. Carry that complicated relationship with you. Reflect on it. Take time with it. But I hope you have a great week and take care of yourself. And just, no matter how big your audience is, you're on the Father's fridge. Fact. Have a great week. Salah.